From teammate, the Tyrant, Jaedong!
This is Jaedong. Jaedong is one of the most successful esports players of all time, but what most people don't know is that before he switched to StarCraft 2, he considered quitting esports for good. After a long career, he felt it might be time to distance himself from pro gaming. Fortunately, Jaedong decided to give competing another shot. This time, he would do it on his own terms.
I always win for my fans and for me.
Jaedong had a typical Korean childhood. He lived in Ulsan, where he'd go to school, spend his time playing soccer in arcades with his friends, and at the end of the night he would go back home to his family, continuing the cycle. Jaedong loved competition, and there wouldn't be a game he hadn't tried in his local arcade. In the 4th grade, Jaedong's parents bought him a computer, which created a new love for PC games. A friend of his older brother would quickly introduce him to the hottest game everyone was playing in the local PC bong, StarCraft Brood War. Jaedong loved playing custom scenarios with his friends, but he found what he really loved was playing with his friends in 1v1 matches. Jaedong would quickly overtake them, and before he knew it, he started sneaking out to attend the local PC bong competitions. And quickly after, Jaedong was dominating the best players at the local tournaments. It wasn't long until he started traveling further and further to find tougher competition for himself. Jaedong was a big fish in a small pond, but his dream was to become a pro gamer, and he would not be stopping here. Initially, Jaedong reasoned with his parents that he could manage both studying and gaming, but that wouldn't last for long. In grade 10, Korean school life started to intensify. Kids typically wouldn't start coming home until 9 p.m. after studying in preparation for university. This is normal in Korean society, but for Jaedong, who would rather be playing video games, found night study to be very problematic. Once studying became too much to handle, Jaedong somehow managed to convince his parents that pursuing pro gaming was worthwhile. Jaedong dropped out of the 10th grade to achieve his dream of becoming a full-time pro gamer. Okay, so now that Jaedong is only focusing on practice, how does he become a pro gamer? Well, for Jaedong to officially become a pro gamer, he would have to first win a tournament called Courage. Courage was a tournament that South Koreans would enter to earn a semi-pro license, officially recognized by the government. This license, on paper, allows you to enter official tournaments. Now, even if you won Courage, that doesn't necessarily make you a full-time pro gamer. Even though you did get a license, you'd still need to get drafted by a professional team, and then given a salary to be considered pro. Most people think that winning Courage would be the hard part, but there were a lot of steps in getting drafted by teams that would make it difficult, even for players who had their license. Every couple of months, KESPA would gather up all the managers and coaches to draft the players they wanted. It's essentially show and tell. But once you were chosen by a manager, you would scrim with that team for a couple of weeks, and then they would make the final decision whether to recruit you or not. Jaedong's first goal to become a pro gamer had to be getting an official license by winning Courage, but he found himself struggling as he was losing a lot. Courage was highly competitive, as only one could win a license out of 128 players. Suddenly, Jaedong found himself 9 Courage attempts deep and feeling exhausted. Despite Jaedong not winning any license yet, there was still an interest surrounding Jaedong, and there was one person in particular who felt that Jaedong had a lot of potential waiting to be utilized. That person went by the ID Jacob, who was the head coach for a team called Plus. Jacob's team, Plus, was not the richest team by any standard, but for teams with a small budget, scouting out for rookies was the name of the game to keep their team afloat with up-and-coming talent. Jacob felt that Jaedong was so good that he offered him to be an online trainee for his team Plus before he even qualified for his license. Just a couple weeks before his 10th Courage attempt, he even offered Jaedong to practice in his team house to get the full experience of a professional team. And once he did, Jaedong started improving very quickly. The 10th Courage attempt with the qualifier, Jaedong finally earned his license, and shortly after officially joining Plus. Plus was later absorbed by Team Oz, where Jacob remained as head coach for many years after. Jacob and Jaedong's trajectory would be closely aligned for many years, as Jacob would take an interest in Jaedong's talent and dedicate a lot of time into caring for Jaedong and his development as a player. Despite the military-style training Oz was known for, Jaedong really didn't mind. He was just grateful for the opportunity to play and was very thankful to Jacob for taking him under his wing. Jaedong, just a year after getting his license, would make his debut in an official televised match on February 13, 2006, getting fielded into Pro League. Jaedong ended the first half of the season with a 6-4 record in his first Pro League. Most rookies were lucky to get a couple games in for the season, but Oz was short on talent, and Jacob's faith in Jaedong was unparalleled, even putting him in some ace matches. He was put through more matches than most rookies could even dream of, and he would excel under the pressure. On December 22nd, 2007, just 10 months later, Jaedong would be crowned champion, winning OSL, one of the most prestigious tournaments Brood War had to offer. Who could stop this hotshot rookie? Jaedong became a serious threat in individual tournaments, quickly earning himself a spot as #1 ranked Zerg by Kespa, which would go on for a record-breaking 43 months straight. Jaedong was also becoming very well known for his Zerg vs Zerg matchup, which people famously coined JVZ, where Jaedong would later say, "I've said this before for ZVZ. No matter what the opponent opens up with, I still think I'm the winner, so I don't think I will lose." His reign of dominance was so impactful, Jaedong would quickly earn the title the Tyrant. Jaedong was put alongside other gods in his era such as Flash, Bisu, and Stork. Altogether, they were known as Tik Bang Lee Sung. Despite being considered a star player at this point, Jaedong wasn't getting star level salary, to the point where even Jaedong's parents were worried that Jaedong wasn't getting enough and negotiated with Plus on a better contract, but they simply didn't have the funds to do so. Still, Jaedong insisted that without Jacob, he would not even be here, so he would always be grateful for that. Jaedong would rather have a lower salary compared to what he would be getting from other teams if it just meant paying Jacob back in some way for the opportunity when he was just an amateur. Jaedong would be cited as one of the hardest working players in Brood War's history, leading to one of the most successful careers and permanently being cemented onto the roadmap of Brood War's history. In 2011, a match-fixing scandal would shake the landscape of esports, and as a result, Hwasong Oz's sponsor would pull out in favor of physical sports. Jacob would subsequently resign, citing that esports is collapsing. Jaedong, now left without a team, would finally decide to join a new team called 8th Team. 8th Team, literally named after the fact that it's the 8th team to fill out Pro League's roster to keep Pro League running smoothly. This team would be the amalgamation of the best players who were unfortunate enough to be part of a disbanding team as a result of the match-fixing scandal. Unfortunately, the impact of the match-fixing scandal would be too great, as just a year later, in 2012, Kespa would decide that a future with Brood War was not feasible, and would instead change its focus to StarCraft 2. At the height of Jaedong's career, everything seemed to be crumbling down, and he was left with a hard path. It's important to note that in esports, careers were short-lived, and Jaedong was 22 years old, which was typically when players started to think about retirement. If Jaedong decided to continue competing and moved on to StarCraft 2, everyone would be at the same starting point, and previous skill gaps would disappear. Hard work and dedication would be more important than ever as a new StarCraft 2 player. He was asked to consider retirement by his parents and find a new path in life, but he couldn't walk away that easily. The call of competition was beckoning Jaedong, and he couldn't resist dipping his toes in one more time, even if it meant starting from behind. StarCraft 2 was a much different game compared to Brood War, and every Brood War player and fan would have to adapt to it. Kespa's approach? The Hybrid League. Half StarCraft 2 and half Brood War Team League. This would give pros and fans alike a chance to get used to StarCraft 2 and slowly ease off of Brood War. On the other hand, StarCraft 2 fans were more than ready now that they could finally experience Pro League all for themselves. What a beautiful moment. Best of 5 between teams, ace matches to decide it all, years of rivalries between teams, players preparing for a week to snipe their opponent's every move. We may never see something like this in esports ever again. But I digress. This was a big deal for StarCraft 2 for many reasons, because up until this point, all the Brood War players who switched to StarCraft 2 were past their prime or were B-teamers looking for a fresh start away from Brood War. Overall, these players were very successful, but while top foreigners were able to snag a couple premier tournaments every year, now the Kespa infrastructure would be in full force. Kespa wasn't just about top-level players though. It came along with teams and coaches dedicating their life towards improving their players' gameplay 24/7. That's what made the legendary players that were switching over legendary. People couldn't help but feel like the limits of StarCraft 2 were going to be truly tested. These players were in a league of their own, but most of all, people wanted to see players like Is Jaedong. For the first season of Pro League, Jaedong managed a 10-10 record in StarCraft 2, leaving fans a little wanting. But with that said, even in this new game, Jaedong was fielded a lot in ace matches, and sometimes exclusively ace matches. Jaedong would rightfully earn MVP for the season, even though fans at times were skeptical of his performance. Jaedong wanted to be fielded, and his team believed in him to clutch. This was Jaedong's ethos in Brood War, and once again, Jaedong was looking to continue that in StarCraft 2 as well.
So a few months ago, when Nada was here for MLG Raleigh, and I was talking to him about the Brood War players switching over to StarCraft 2, and he named you specifically as one of the players that would be top 3 in the world when they move over to StarCraft 2. How have you felt as a Zerg player from switching from Brood War to StarCraft 2, and do you think the skill ceiling is as high as he thought it would be in the switch?
So first of all, I want to say thank you to Nada. And about the statement he made for being top 3, I don't think that's true. I actually think I'm going to be number 1.
Just a year later, on December 5th, 2012, it was announced that Jaedong would be joining the roster of Evil Geniuses, which would come as a surprise to everyone, since Jaedong was one of the first Kespa players to join a foreign team.
To have him on the team really solidifies us as a team that's committed to excellence and a team that's committed to not just being, the team that everybody watches because we have great personalities, but a team that's dedicated to winning. Because Jaedong is, if anything, the embodiment of success and victory and winning.
Jaedong, who was known for sticking with his team for so long in Breed War, had left for a foreign team, seemingly at the first chance he got. This intrigued fans, wondering what he saw in Evil Geniuses. But for Jaedong, without having to think about his loyalty to old friends like Jacob, allowed him the freedom to consider new things in the prospect of teams. And for Jaedong, joining Evil Geniuses was a new level of freedom he never had access to. As a Kespa player, he was not able to travel to nearly as many events as foreigners because Pro League was the #1 priority. But by joining a foreign team, he'd be able to pick and choose whichever event he wanted and gained a lot of freedom.
Why? Tell me why he's back.
He just likes it. I'm going to be honest with you, because one of the things that we talked about when we first signed Jaedong was there was a concern that he would travel too much, because it's a well-known fact that if you spend too much time outside of Korea and touring the world, as MC did, yes, there's a really good chance you're going to win a lot of money, but what also could happen is that you're too far away from the best prac planet, you get fatigued, and it starts to affect your results. So that was actually a concern he had, but he loved his time in Stockholm, and when this tournament came around, I think there's actually an open door policy for Jaedong. He's invited to play everywhere he ever wants. It's kind of up to him whether or not he wants to, and he said, I want to go back to Sweden.
Evil Geniuses would give Jaedong access to the world stage. On the other hand, this announcement would make a lot of fans worried. Without the benefits of the Kespa regime, Jaedong would need to work much harder to keep up his skill level compared to his opponents. Jaedong would also be under scrutiny since Evil Geniuses had a reputation for recruiting champions that would later not perform as well as fans expected from them. The expectations for Jaedong were very high, and now leaving Kespa seemed to betray fans' hopes for Jaedong in StarCraft 2. Would Jaedong be able to keep improving his skill level? Perhaps Jaedong had given up on the idea of being a champion in StarCraft 2? Jaedong would begin 2013 with an uneventful placing in the GSL, going 64th, losing in the preliminary to Kodas. But Jaedong would not be long for GSL, as he'd soon be competing in the foreign circuit, starting with DreamHack Open just 4 months later, and he would not be looking back anytime soon.
We will see, but Nanoa is almost maxed out. Jaedong at 113 supply. The only thing he has going for him is the fact that he's still mining. And the Swarm Host starting to go down.
That is Jaedong's army down the toilet. 18.
In DreamHack Open, Jaedong would start off with a strong placing, dropping his first and only series to Naniwa, knocking him out of the tournament in the round of 4. Still, it was clear from this tournament that Jaedong's skill had not gotten worse from joining a foreign team, and if anything had gotten considerably better from what we had seen from him previously in Pro League and GSL. Jaedong would return to Sweden to play DreamHack Summer just a couple months later, but ultimately would fall to a Protoss player again, this time named Stardust in the finals. Jaedong was consistently getting better results each tournament, and with this pace, a championship was seemingly around the corner.
Buenas noches, Valencia, and welcome to all our viewers on Twitch and Swedish TV.
Just a month later in Valencia, Jaedong successfully gets his revenge on Stardust in the round of 4, only to die to Hyun in the finals. A pit stop in WCS Americas and Jaedong would find himself in the finals against Polt, only to somehow get destroyed in a 4-0. In the World Championship circuit, once again, Jaedong gets 4-0'd by Bomber in the finals. Jaedong was becoming well known for getting deep into tournaments, but there's just a small side note to all these brackets. People started to become worried, because Jaedong was finding himself a familiar spot in the second place finish again and again and again, until there was something on everyone's mind. Was Jaedong a Kong? Now, you might be wondering, what is a Kong, and what's so bad about getting so many second places? The history of Kong dates back to Brood War. When a player would go on a particularly unlucky streak of second places, they would be deemed a Kong. The first and most infamous Kong in Brood War went by the name of Yellow, where being a Kong seemingly followed his life.
이의 저주가 생기고 나서 생활에도 되게 이상한 일이 생겼대. 지난번에 지루가 휴가 나왔다가 서울을 갔는데 22일 날인데 기차를 타는데 서울에서 계룡역 새마을호를 탔는데 예매를 했는데 좌석이 2호차 22호석으로 나왔대. 이게 말이 돼? 자기 깜짝 놀랐다고. 야, 말도 안 돼 진짜. 넌 역시 황신이다.
It's important to understand these second places are only really reserved for premier tournaments, as a weekly cup doesn't really hold as much weight as something like a GSL finals. But the standard for tournament level doesn't end at just premier level, since prestige difficulty is a big part of what it means to beat the curse of the Kong as well. Now, this is where things get complicated. Being a Kong becomes like a curse, but believing that you are a Kong is much more important than actually being one or not. You see, calling the title Kong a curse might seem ridiculous when you're consistently placing in the finals and are overall considered a top player, but being a Kong is a fear of stagnation, a fear of never being enough. Once you believe you're a Kong, it isn't about winning the next tournament, it's about amending missed opportunities and finally overcoming yourself. This is a symptom in all pro players, but to truly earn a championship is the greatest privilege any player can have. A privilege Jaedong seemingly cannot earn in StarCraft 2.
Welcome back to the World Championship Series 2013, the Global Finals, live from BlizzCon at the Anaheim Convention Center.
Every year, BlizzCon takes the best players in each respective region to see who will come out on top in a round of 16 bracket. Jaedong, due to his placements throughout the year, has earned his spot in BlizzCon as 3rd seed. This tournament would be the amalgamation of the top players in every region, and would be meeting familiar as well as unfamiliar players alike. More importantly, this would be the perfect opportunity for Jaedong to finally dispel his status of Kong forever in the most prestigious tournament of the year. Jaedong's first opponent would be MVP, the Old Guard, not only of Wings of Liberty, but a representation of a top Korean player before Kespa came to StarCraft 2.
In the top left-hand corner, ooh, he's got a surprise in store for us in this game. The man who's building the pool on 8 supply.
He doesn't see the Lings and they're in the main base.
What a move from Jaedong. Knows the timings in and out. Waited patiently for the Reaper to depart. And now the SCVs are under fire.
They are under fire and damage will be dealt tonight as Jaedong has killed off 4 workers already. 5 workers here and more may die. An excellent move from Jaedong.
God, MVP is losing everything he has. He's down to 10 supply, 9 now. 7 SCVs remain on the field. Looks like Jaedong is gonna try to catch that Hellion off guard, but no, it's getting all picked off up in the main base, and we're seeing the Zerglings racing back, but the angle for MVP is fantastic right now. Look at that great control. It's an attempted surround. MVP does have a very nice tucked away position, but Jaedong is a little bit too good with his positioning.
Absolutely fantastic defense here by the Tyrant. The Queen is trying to get back a transfuse right before the death of that Queen. But Jaedong not taking too many losses here.
Oh my God, MVP taking massive losses. Jaedong is all over this game.
Jaedong would quickly 3-0 MVP in the round of 16. His next opponent in the quarterfinals? Deer, a fellow Kespa player who also debuted his first StarCraft 2 games along with Jaedong in Pro League.
Or we see that the Spine Crawlers are going to be up at the front lines, and how is Deer going to engage it? Is Jaedong actually going to elect to fight this?
Well, if he can get the Archon at the right angle here.
Oh my God! One Archon falls, second Archon gets target fired, but it's getting absolutely massive shots, takes them down, 29 Mutilas versus 13 Stalkers.
That's going to do it.
GG! Jaedong!
Get in there, it looks like. And even though we have a maxed out Jaedong, I don't know if it's going to be enough. There's just enough anti-air. The Corruptors are going to have a hard time wiping out these Colossi. And the Colossi are really what are countering the rest of this army.
How is Deer pulling this one off?
I can't believe he's actually pulling this up. I cannot believe this just happened.
GG, Deer takes game 2 on Jaedong's prime map. Seeing 9 Infestors come out, Deer has been an unstoppable force in the Season 3 Korea at the Season 3 Grand Finals, and the only person who seems to be able to hold up against him is Jaedong, but he needs to hold a final push. Infestors arrive, good time warps, good fungals. We're seeing Lings and Roaches coming from all sides. The Mothership core falls down. It's all up to the Corruptors to do the corruption and the bonus damage. We're seeing the Zealot Sentry Immortal get knocked down on the ramp. 100 supply to 180.
Jaedong's got this.
He's got it. Yep. Can't blink now. It looks like Jaedong's going to snap up every single one of those Stalkers. Immortal's going to fall. And what is Deer left to do?
Yeah, the Archons are first going to be bunched too close together.
Oh,
this should bring us out of game 4. There it is, GG. Wow.
Oh my God. 3 more gateways.
Did he has a Twilight Gets okay, he's doing a blink all in.
He's doing a 7-gate blink all in, and this push is going to be enough of a signal to Jaedong that something is wrong. Oh, Jaedong's got to be very careful here.
Yeah.
This is a super easy way to lose a critical half of your army, but with Burrow, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it could be really bad. I think Jaedong might be able to hold this. It'll depend on the damage output.
So close. Where's Jaedong?
And this is starting up.
This is it. He's burned. He's burned. And now, what can Deer do? What can Deer do? Roaches, Lynx, everything is going to be assaulted. And there it is! The unburrow! But the blink away in a heartbeat. The Stalkers immediately pull out, but the sentries have fallen. Jaedong, who was down 1-2, might have been able to pull this back with this incredible burrow play.
That was absolutely brilliant. The sentries were vaporized the moment they popped up. He still does have, Deer does have a good amount of stalkers, but the Lynx and Roaches are closing in. The pylon's getting cornered now. He can't even really blink anywhere safe at this point in time. He's completely surrounded.
Utter decimation of this push. Jaedong reading Deer like a book. The star senses with Jaedong when everything's on the line. Deer now plummeted down.
So sick!
Deer's EVP was very strong, but Jaedong managed to keep the hope alive with his tactics throughout the series. In the semifinals, he would face Maru, one of the youngest and most talented ESF players that had qualified for GSL at a staggering 13 years old. It was clear from the start that Jaedong did not want this series to last, as he would be playing this very aggressively.
No, it looks like Jaedong is just,
oh my God! Oh my God!
And the barracks flood is late due to the delay.
The Hellions are coming back.
They're coming back.
I don't know if they're going to get there in time.
Oh, but Jaedong rides out to meet them. Doesn't matter how good your kiting is, the Ling numbers are just a little bit too big. And here comes Jaedong streaming in with Banelings. Maru's control, sickeningly good, but the numbers are just too big.
And here come the Banelings now, barreling towards the entrance. Jaedong does not want this to go to the late game.
Unbelievable reads. Jaedong storms the front, the reactors fall, and it looks like the Marines stim. There's not enough. Jaedong, will he get a clean 2-0? Maru's control is his only hope now. Oh, there the Banelings roll up to the top. See you later, remaining
Maru
army.
is at 12 supply now. GG!
Maru's going to try to, he's got a big attack he's got to deal with. This is swinging in the front. We see that there's no siege tanks anywhere nearby. Things are getting ripped to shreds. The Mutalisk also storming in, but Maru seems to be holding strong. It looks like the Terran army's a little bit too much for Jaedong.
He's barely pushing back.
No way!
No, it's just not quite
enough. He's going to take it out, and Maru manages to hold. I can't even believe I'm going to say this, but Jaedong might starve Maru on 4 bases, but
yeah, that actually might happen.
I mean, the production is the answer. Maru's making no mines, no tanks, nothing that isn't lightning quick.
Now Maru's going around. He's dropping here. He's also got a small group of units moving around here. We could get into a really weird base trade scenario.
Is Maru going to do it? Is he going to be able to close it out? A Ling Ultra Force heading in. The bottom expansion is not mining. There's almost no buildings on this map for Maru.
He's going to go try to kite this army up here on the high ground. Jaedong is now out positioned in his base.
Where are the buildings? There's no more buildings. This is it.
I think this is it.
Jaedong.
If Maru loses all his buildings, he loses the game.
In an elimination race with no income on either side, Jaedong takes Maru to the Supreme late game, wins the series 3-1, and now is in his 5th 2013 final.
What didn't work seemed to flow today. Jaedong took the series handily 3-1. Finally, Jaedong is in the finals of the largest tournament of the year. He's been dominating all the way here. His opponent in the finals was SOS, who's known for being unorthodox and tricky. Fans were nervous. Could this be it? Jaedong was playing so well, but this opponent was going to be difficult. If Jaedong could keep it together, he could very well win this.
As you can see, SOS ranked 12 in the world from the WCS rankings.
But if you look at the players that Jaedong has gone through to get here, and you look at just how badly he needs his first tournament win, I see no other result than Jaedong taking this. You know what? We've seen, 5 second places and 2 round of 4s from Jaedong this year, I believe. Can he actually win a tournament? Because he's had momentum in all of those as well, and it absolutely did not work out.
Yeah, I mean, 4 finals, the 5th final now. Surely this has to be a victory. How long can he keep being second?
Well, he hopes it's done, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, people can't even talk about yellow anymore if Jaedong doesn't win tonight.
Jaedong running out of places to hide as this death ball of SOS moves from location to location, slowly wiping out anything Jaedong related.
Oh God, these Phoenixes doing such a great job against the Mutas, and in fact, coming to join up this army with all those Archons, you are never going to be able to engage this.
Yeah, after watching this game, I can't help but feel how good and how well SOS has played. Just imagine, a few moments ago, he's on 3 bases, he couldn't take a fight, he looked so far behind, but everything's gone his way.
It certainly has, and this is the final battle. GG!
SOS is trying to sneak that 5th base up here. Beautiful infested Terrence raining down Psystorm to follow that up. But this may be just too much. The Chain Fungals can punish the Zealots so easily.
Roaches have pretty big umbrellas. Tasteless, they're surviving the storms and they're pushing forwards.
He's now going to close in here on the would-be 3rd base. Keeping SOS under control. By the way, supplies right now, SOS at 107 to Jaedong being maxed out. In time, I mean, you can't get an answer to this.
Watch this, Tasteless, as these Mulists enter the base. SOS is gonna go, oh no! He's got nothing to do with it!
With that many Zealots, I mean, you can't kite all day against this, and look at that, a beautiful Time Warp does go down. The Immortals moving forward, trying to hit the Roaches. A 2nd Time Warp goes down.
He's continuing to just press for more and more damage. The Roaches now up against the ropes. The Zealots here just dishing out so much. He can continue to warp in. These Immortals are so well positioned, by the way.
Just an amazing attack thus far. More and more Roaches just piling out. But these 2 Immortals killing them off. GG! And that brings us to 3-1 for SOS.
Time. I mean, this is the map for Jaedong, by the way. This is the map. And before this entire series started, I was thinking, okay, well, I gotta put some matter. Hold on, he's catching these Hydras.
All right, not quite as bad as it could have been there. Now, this is a maxed out Zerg army, so SOS still has to be careful. He does hallucinate with a single Colossus. Looks like his Phoenix is getting picked off very quickly. We're gonna have to see some great force fields here as well.
Oh, and here the fight engages. The Corruptor's trying to bring down the Colossus fast enough. Is this gonna be the fight that Jaedong wants? SOS reinforcing with more Stalkers, though.
The Stalkers blink under, and there is not much left on the ground. GG!
SOS is the WCS StarCraft 2 World Champion.
It's been all year, and it cannot be disputed. SOS is your champion!
In the end, Jaedong gets slaughtered in the biggest tournament of the year, and the fans are devastated. Once again, Jaedong is a Kong.
But I remember I go into the booth, I open the door to see how he's doing, and he's sitting in the chair, and he's looking down. His head is in his hands, and there's just tears just streaming down his face. To see someone that successful, that glorified, so completely annihilated, is a weird experience. I've seen people cry. I've seen people be in despair. But to see a proud champion, like elevated human, wrecked like that was something I'll never forget. And I just put my hand on his back, and I kind of knelt down and looked at him, and I said, you know, we're proud of you. And he took his hands off his face and looked at me, and he kind of like nodded a little bit, and I just gave him a little squeeze and walked out and gave him his space. But the reason why he was wrecked that bad wasn't because he didn't win, or wasn't because he didn't get the money or something like that. It was because he wanted it so bad. And that was so goddamn inspiring to be around. I don't know that I've ever wanted anything as bad as in that moment I was in the presence of. And I'm not saying that's a cliche. People say stuff like that, but I actually mean it. I don't know that I've ever wanted something as much as he wanted that. It was like a transcendent moment. He wanted it so bad that he couldn't filter himself when he didn't get what he wanted.
Jaedong just couldn't win no matter how hard he tried. Jaedong was known for being a champion for most of his career. He was bold, innovative, and at times he even did what others thought impossible. He was a god of Brood War, and he was presented with a feeling he hadn't felt in a long time. Failure. Except now, he didn't have Jacob to take him in and help him when he fell short. All there was left was Jaedong, and that was who he needed believing in him the most. Despite his consistency to getting in the finals, he struggled at winning a championship for himself. And with the rising Kespa dominance in StarCraft 2, it could very well be a wall he would never overcome. On the other hand, he'd been in 5 finals this year, and was already considered the best of the gods in StarCraft 2. Jaedong also found himself with more freedom than he ever had in Kespa, and was enjoying his life to the fullest.
StarCraft 2 for him was a vehicle for experiencing the world. He had been in Korea. He had been revered, obviously, but he had not gotten to see much else. They would do the one-off in China or something. But for the most part, he was kept in a pro gaming house, and then he was shuffled over to events in Seoul, and he competed. He didn't get to see the world. So a big part of the reason why I loved EG so much was EG promised to show him the world, and they did. And he took that very serious. So a lot of his results weren't as amazing as people had wanted, which was an amazing, again, struggle to watch, because Jaedong wanted to appease those people and first and foremost himself by winning, but he also didn't want to waste his life away any further by just playing StarCraft. So he took it very serious, but by taking it very serious, he was in this constant struggle of like, when I'm in Sweden, I want to go out and eat Swedish food. I want to see the city. I want to visit. But I'm also there to win a tournament. And in the past, he wouldn't do any of those things. He would just be training nonstop at a tournament, even in a hotel room or at a PC bong or something like that.
After playing to be the best for so long, could Jaedong learn to find success and happiness in the space between tournaments? Jaedong would need to consider for the first time in his life what success really meant to him, and if being a tournament winner in StarCraft 2 really needed to be part of that. After all, he'd already proven he's more than capable of being a champion. It's November, and after a long circuit of tournaments, it looks like the tournament year's ending. And while not being a champion, still holding a successful year. Except, there's just one last tournament to wrap up 2013, and that goes by Aces ROG, a tournament held in Germany. Aces ROG was a different kind of tournament, being made up of 13 invitations out of 16, and the last 3 spots would be filled by local qualifiers for German competition. Jaedong was a well-earned invitee with his placements over the year, and while being a bit of a smaller tournament, Jaedong did not want to miss any chance to compete. Except, this is no ordinary tournament. You see, while Jaedong was creating an unusual story for himself with 5 second places in a year, there was another interesting statistic happening in the premier tournaments around the world. Knows anything about all these finals Jaedong was in? A foreigner did not win them. In fact, a foreigner had not won a single premier tournament all year. Which, if this continued with Aces ROG as the last tournament of the year, this would be the first time since the beginning of StarCraft 2's creation that a foreigner had not won at least one premier tournament in a year. This created an incredible circumstance that fans would be looking out for. Who would be coming out on top in Aces ROG 2013? To start off Aces ROG, we would have 9 foreigners and 7 Koreans competing for the title at Aces ROG, but Jaedong would be finding a familiar opponent in Stardust. This would be the 3rd time they fought this year, where in one of them, Stardust beat Jaedong in his first finals, but with a swift 3-1, Jaedong wins. To continue into the winner's match, Jaedong faces Nurchio in a tight ZVZ, but Jaedong pulls through. This would leave us the round of 8 bracket with 3 foreigners and 5 Koreans. Jaedong would continue to whittle them down as he beats Elfie 3-1. Vortex would also fall on the other side of the bracket, leaving just Scarlet as the remaining foreigner of the tournament. It was looking like foreigners' dreams were coming to an end with another Korean finals. With most of the foreigners dropping out now, there was only Scarlet left, who was up against Life, one of the most aggressive Zerg players in the world. Jaedong would go on to play Innovation with his closest games in the playoffs yet, with a 3-2 edging out the Jaedong. Scarlet, in an unexpected turn of events, would upset Life 3-0, keeping the dream alive for a foreigner tournament win. Suddenly, the 2 biggest anomalies in the tournament were at odds with each other in the finals of Aces ROG. This series would be the most polarizing for fans. On one side, there was Scarlet, who was the representation of foreigners' hopes of keeping relevance in StarCraft 2. If she lost here, this would be the first time a foreigner did not win a premier tournament at least once that year. And with Kespa's rising dominance, it could very well be their last chance. On the other side, the Jaedong fans who desperately wanted Jaedong to close out this year with the premier title, just once. While everyone wondered who would win this Zerg vs Zerg finals, there was one little known fact that was important to know going into these finals. For Jaedong, switching from StarCraft Brood War to StarCraft 2, he had to relearn a lot of things. But there was one thing that stayed the same in his transition, and that was the highest ZVZ win rate of any player in the game. There was only one thing on Jaedong's mind. No matter what the opponent opens up with, I still think I'm the winner.
Squeezed into somewhere.
Oh my god! The nice detonate here for Jaedong. Gets to surround against the queens here. He wants to take down both queens, and that would be so incredibly important. If he is able to do that, then the production will be so limited for Scarlet. And Jaedong is looking oh so strong here. Taking down Harvesters. There are no queens for Scarlet, no production. And that expansion that Jaedong builds is uncontested. GG! And evil geniuses Jaedong takes game number 1 here.
Explode on all the bases. That would be really good.
Wow! That was a good one. This battle about to happen. A 5 Mutalisk lead for Scarlet already in the main base. Another queen already died. And those Mutalisks are fighting. Jaedong is not even moving them back. He's taking the fight. It's a GG. Scarlet takes game number 2. Jumping around, trying to maybe snipe the drone, maybe 2, but always having to dodge the banelings. And they are actually trapped here. There could be a massive connect. Taking the first one out. The queen dies in the process. Well done here. Doing damage, taking down the queens. He going into the main base, sniping another one, going to town on those drones too. And the Mutalisk numbers, it's 33 in his favor against 25. GG, Scarlet realizing that there's nothing she can do anymore. Too much damage done by Jaedong. There's so many roaches, and I don't know if Scarlet can really hold there. She's trying to. The first Spinecrawl has done, the second one, the third, the fourth, the fifth about to finish. But Jaedong, he doesn't care. He takes down the first, he takes down the second. He's just going for it. He's trying to take down what Scarlet has. She's dropping in Harvesters. She's fighting with a drone. She's fighting with a single Mutalisk, yes. But it doesn't really look good. Dropping in supply. 2 Spinecrawlers are still left. Jaedong is going for it. GG! Jaedong is the winner. The Aces ROG 2013 here in Neumünster. He is finally the champion. Unbelievable. Takes the series, the best of 7 with a
Jaedong, at his very last chance, finally wins the Premier Tournament. Through his immense success in Brood War to his rocky transition into StarCraft 2, there was no doubt that Jaedong had gone through a lot. Some people doubted Jaedong's accomplishment, since it was a tournament that was made up of mostly invites. Ultimately, the curse of the Kong was for Jaedong, and only he could decide if it was enough or not. Jaedong wanted to win a Premier Tournament all year, and now he finally has. If the curse was broken, surely this would be his best memory of StarCraft 2. Jaedong started StarCraft 2 in 2012, being projected as one of the best players, and was now sitting in 2013 with one of the strongest years of any player, getting to 6 finals and winning Aces Frog to end it all off. Just about any player would be happy with that result. But is Jaedong happy?
My best memory StarCraft 2 is last year, BlizzCon. I got semi-final and final. Sorry, I got second, but very nice memory.
I walked into that first booth when he took second place at DreamHack, and he had tears streaming out of his eyes because he wanted it so bad. And it was at that moment that I saw him, and I knew that he was perhaps the most special player that I've ever encountered in my entire life.
In an elimination race with no income on either side, Jaedong takes Mara to the Supreme late game, wins the series.
And about the statement he made for being top 3, I don't think that's true. I actually think I'm going to be number 1.
넌 역시 황신이다.
He going into the main base, sniping another one. He doesn't see the Lings, and they're in the main base.
Oh my God! It is the unfurl, but the blink away in a heartbeat. Ground